And hi everybody, welcome back to Fresh Outlook. I'm TWB. Well, on the controversy scale, the issue of drone strikes appears to be off the charts. From the impact to the effects and the morality of these strikes, everyone has an opinion on this hot button issue. Take a look.
Unmanned U.S. aircraft known as drones continue to spy on and bomb targets around the world, from Pakistan to Africa to the Middle East. The attacks have killed hundreds, sometimes civilians, including minors and U.S. citizens, fueling the anti-American anger in these regions and beyond. Drone manufacturers and the U.S. government claim that the deaths are unexpected accidents, collateral damage in America's wars to defend itself.
This is a targeted, focused effort at people who are on a list of active terrorists.
Others say they are strictly unconstitutional and violate international law. Currently, more than 70 countries now operate some type of unmanned military aircraft. And inside the U.S., local and state police have plans to use the spy planes to beef up their own surveillance capabilities.
The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office has a new crime-fighting tool. The county revealed their Shadowhawk drone from Vanguard.
With Washington recently setting down a rule book on drone assassinations and conflicting reports that Iran may or may not have shot down a U.S. drone in the past week, the debate over this tense issue is just getting started.
It certainly is. Let's get into it. By the way, a quick stat for everybody. When President George W. Bush declared a war on terror 11 years ago, the Pentagon had fewer than 50 drones. Now there's around 7,500. So I think that speaks volumes. What do we say, panel? What do we think? Is this just collateral damage, or is this unconstitutional?
Let me give some background on drones. I remember actually my dad, who was a highly decorated ace in World War II and B-17 bombers, used to talk about the drones that were used by the Nazis. That was actually their development back in the 40s in the Battle of Britain, where they actually would launch these things over the channel, and they were unmanned, of course. And so they were actually, they had the association with Nazis and with the Luftwaffe, and they had this kind of horrible, this horrific kind of identity to them. Now the good guys are using them now. So
Everyone's using them.
Everyone is about to use them because they're available and within everyone's budget. But isn't this really kind of the age in which wars are fought without casualties, at least for those that can afford the technology to avoid getting actually shot by a bullet and confront somebody in the field?
So two things: do unto others as you would have done unto you. I don't think this is the right U.S. policy to continue these Bush era, drone strikes and roll with it. I think Obama is playing a little fast and loose.
A little drone happy?
Well, a little drone happy, yeah. And I mean, I don't think it bodes well for our reputation as a nation internationally and globally. And I don't think that when you look right down at it, that you can excuse the fact that when you have criminal courts in foreign countries that could be used to apprehend the folks that are in question, that are supposedly these terrorists, that are the ones that are being in these targeted killings that often do now more and more, particularly in places like Pakistan, take out civilians and families and farmers and poor people, really.
But do unto others as they would do to you. But look at, I mean, we're in a post 9/11 era. Look what was done to us.
What I'm saying is,
we're protecting
so why
ourselves.
are we going in for the drone strike first without actually, taking the person who's in question and putting them through the justice system?
Also, I don't think that drone strikes are making us safer. I think if you want to prosecute the war on terror, you have to conduct yourselves above, sort of above the standards of what we think of in terms of how wars have to be prosecuted in general. The whole idea about terrorism is that it has no rules. Drone strikes to me seem to fall within that category. And if you look at the numbers, if you're talking about 18 to 20, 23% civilian casualties or innocent casualties, think about the people who live in the communities who are under drone surveillance and drone strike sort of watches. You're talking about people who are living in terror. And so long term, that can't possibly be making us more secure. That's got to be radicalizing people against the folk who are attacking us with these drones. And so, I think as a policy, it's something that this administration, the Obama administration, has got to stop immediately.
Well, let's see what the world thinks of this. I think we have a graphic showing there we go, Greece, Turkey, France, China, U.S., sort of public opinion on the U.S. use of drones. I think it's pretty overwhelming, as you can see. Most disapprove. So I think they agree with the panel. So
I agree with James. James is really talking about the war of hearts for hearts and minds, and we're losing that war. And drones, because they are readily available, one could argue as well, and I agree completely with Francesca in that use of drones makes us judge, jury, and executioner. and not
All
using
in
due
one.
process, and that doesn't look good for us. This really is contributing to the image of the ugly American.
It's setting a dangerous precedent.
It's
Yeah,
a
The
terrible-
thing is,
terrible
would we
precedent.
like it to have happened here? You know, the
It is
argument
gonna
was
start
made.
happening
Well,
here.
that's the thing.
And
that's another thing.
It happened to us in September of 2001.
Well, not with the drone attack.
Well, I'm just saying,
Well-
but they flew a trajectory into one of our buildings, and this while
more
we're
than
not,
one.
Right, but two wrongs don't make a right, and we're not going
I
to.
agree.
We have to prosecute wars in a way that's commensurate with the standards of American policy and American history.
And international law.
And international law. Drones don't fall under any of
This is
that.
what I find so confusing about this. In the most recent election, there was almost no criticism of the president over this issue. And for people who supported him, like I did 4 years previously to his first run, things like closing Guantanamo Bay, things like ending the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, those were things that I wanted to support. And when they did not happen, in a way, I'm a little surprised conservatives were not more supportive of him and his war record, of his foreign policy.
Very
I
hard.
think-
He did end the war in
Well,
Iraq,
I-
and people
Yeah,
did.
sure.
People wrote a lot about drones. People have been writing about it. I've written about it. People have been writing on major platforms, but mainstream television media doesn't really pick up on it.
No.
And
I
and
just
it's-
I just don't think people are informed.
Well, people need to
well-
understand that there are people who are being killed on behalf of this country unfairly and without any kind of due process.
People don't want to be informed about it. This is an extension back to the first President Bush, when we had this wonderful new thing in midst of all the Scud studs and all that, that we had smart bombs.
Yeah.
So when we saw from way up here, we saw an image of a bomb hitting a building and the building exploding. We were told by the media, by the administration, that that bomb only killed combatants.
Right.
So now we have the phrase smart bomb out there, and we just don't connect emotionally to the fact that there are children in there, there could be
Well,
babies
and
in
so-called
there.
surgical
And,
hits.
and that desensitization even occurs within the drone operators who are from a remote location, just like your child might have an RC car using real ammo in a real drone over a real area with real people and real targets, and they're dropping those bombs and killing people, some of whom may in fact be the object legitimately of some targets, but in many, many cases, those who aren't. And those folks are now suffering from PTSD, and there's this whole other arena of morality and ethics and
Right.
compliance with international law or lack thereof.
Well, that's, the lack
to-
thereof is my concern.
As to whether or not that this is even ethically viable.
Is any war moral or ethical, really, when it really comes down to it?
Good
we
question.
can try to split hairs about what's considered acceptable and so forth, but in this case, I think clearly it's kind of over beyond the pale in terms of the image that we're trying to project around the world. But then again, can we do more diplomatically?
Exactly. Exactly. Again,
good question.
I would love to see the kind of investment that's been invested in drones and all these new technologies that kill people. I'd love to see those resources invested in diplomacy.
What about this idea of drones ultimately being used on a local level? Local police, I mean,
Already
like we talked about this a little bit earlier, sort of invading our,
I mean,
it's
that's the
happening.
scary part.
Is
Sure.
this
Do
where
what
we're
you're doing to
headed?
others as you have them doing to you.
Some say good, it's
a-
necessary, but is it?
It is scary, and actually, I think it's in the works. I think in police departments around
Yep.
the country.
Sure.
But on a lighter note, there's actually a father somewhere in Illinois who
Right.
created his own drone
Right.
to watch his kid going to the bus
He's
in the morning
multitasking,
and back.
WJ.
Kind of hovers over the bus to make sure nobody.
I think the surveillance issues around drones nationally is terrifying.
And
I think it's absolutely terrifying. Can you I mean, think about this.
the world we
How
live in.
much, I mean, think about the kind of corruption, and I love policemen, they do important work, but think about the levels of corruption in some of our police institutions, especially in some of our major cities. And we want to give those institutions the capacity and power to not only surveil their citizens, but also to attack them strategically and surgically in these ways. I think it is a bad move. I think the entire drone program has got to be reeled in both domestically and internationally.
Well, you might as well
And
take
who's
away
gonna
the
do
guns
that?
too. If you're going to take away the drones, then don't give them guns.
I
Listen,
mean,
but
drones
get
are in,
the
like
point.
we heard, 70 countries.
But let me make another point. When an American drone drops a bomb on a building somewhere in the middle of nowhere and it kills people, maybe it killed someone who is an enemy combatant, or maybe it kills a family member of that person, or maybe it kills somebody who is not involved in the conflict at all. The survivor of that family that's killed, that survivor now has a new mission in life.
Exactly.
And now we've made another enemy.
Well,
Exactly.
right, exactly. Are we just
It
making
cannot be making us
enemies
more secure. No. There's no way.
way too fast?
Well, I mean, the argument was made too. Like, if Basque separatists came over Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, and they dropped a drone bomb, and left a big hole in the middle of the street, what would we as Americans do? How would we feel when we had civilians that were out there just shopping for Christmas, for example, when they were the casualties. So I don't think that there's any kind of a consciousness at a basic level, because the thing is, this was done by Bush after 9/11, but then it continued to ramp up quickly, and as you said, went from 50 to 7,500 in over the last decade plus. And so the fact that we have so many more, and it's becoming so much more indiscriminate, and nobody put the rules out for it, and that's what we're calling for. Is we're calling for rules, we're calling for limitations, we're calling for there to be some kind of a sense of parameters on this, if and when they're even going to be used at all.
I'm calling for an end to it
until
until those
really
things are set
possible?
up.
I
don't know if it's possible,
but
but I think people need to wake up and see exactly what's going on with drone strikes, not just abroad, but also here.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to go to break, and I'm not going to interrupt you this time. All right. Coming up next on Fresh Outlook, we're talking about maybe a lighter topic at hand, the birth rate. Once upon a time, birth rates were rising in this country, especially among immigrants, but now rates are dropping fast. So what's the cause and where are we headed? That's next on Fresh Outlook. Stay with us.